أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون. وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم. إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون. قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون. قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين. قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم. قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون. أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون. إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين. إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون. قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين. وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين. إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون. يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون. ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون. وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون. وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون يصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
صلی علی محمد. کوئی چراغ جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے کوئی چراغ جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے سکینہ کو نہ رلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے کوئی چراغ جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے سر حسین دکھا کر یتیم بچی کو سر حسین دکھا کر یتیم بچی کو ستم گرو نہ رلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے ستم گرو نہ رلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے یہ روتے روتے ہوئے سو گئی ہے جاگ نہ جائے یہ روتے روتے ہوئے سو گئی ہے جاگ نہ جائے تھپک تھپک کے سلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، تھپک تھپک کے سلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، کب آئی رات یہ دن کب ڈھلا نہیں معلوم، کب آئی رات یہ دن کب ڈھلا نہیں معلوم، پھوپھی چراغ جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، پھوپھی چراغ جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، سکینہ بی کا زندہ میں جی ہے گھبراتا، سکینہ بی کا زندہ میں جی ہے گھبراتا، خدا را رحم تو کھاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، خدا را رحم تو کھاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، کہاں سکینہ نے رو کر میری پھوپھی اماں، کہاں سکینہ نے رو کر میرے پھوپھی اماں، مجھے نہ چھوڑ کے جاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، مجھے نہ چھوڑ کے جاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، اندھیرا زندہ اندھیری ہے قبر اے مرزا، اندھیرا زندہ اندھیری ہے قبر اے مرزا، چراغ دل کے جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، کوئی چراغ جلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، سکینہ کو نہ رلاؤ بہت اندھیرا ہے، صلوات پر
سورة المباركة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. لقد جاءت رسول ربنا بالحق. الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء المرسلين خاتم النبيين سيدنا والنبينا ومولانا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وبآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. وصل على صاحب الدعوة النبوية والسولة الحيدرية والإسمة الفاطمية والحلم الحسنية والشجاعة الحسينية والصبر السجادية وآثار الباقرية ومؤثر الصادقية وعلوم الكاظمية وحجج رضوية وجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والهيبة الأسكرية والغيبة إلهية والقائمة بالحق. اللهم عجل لي وليك الفرج. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتاب الكريم ومحكم كتاب المجيد وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعلى الله فتوكلوا إن كنتم مؤمنين. The Pharaoh, known as Ramses II, was no doubt one of the most ruthless, tyrannical, oppressive ruler in the history. Pharaoh would murder, he would butcher, he would annihilate and torture the Banu Israel. And out of his paranoia of being overthrown, as the fortune teller Haman had predicted, Pharaoh would order that every newborn baby from the Banu Israel was to be put to the sword every other year. So 1 year the newborn babies could live, and in the next they would be put to the sword. And so Pharaoh would rule with an iron fist. So you can imagine when the Banu Israel, who were nothing more than a group of slaves who had no army, no armor, no weapons, when they were running away from the well-equipped army, being led by none other than the Pharaoh himself, who were armed to the teeth, when they reached the Red Sea in front of them, they felt that there was no way out for them. In front of them, the Banu Israel, is the Red Sea. Behind them is the well-equipped army of Pharaoh, who if they were to catch them, surely their death is certain. They would be annihilated. They would have been butchered if the army of Pharaoh would have got to them. In chapter number 26, verse number 61, Surah Shu'ara, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so when the two parties, the party of Musa and the party of Pharaoh, saw one another, the companions of Musa said, Inna lamudrakun, surely, verily indeed, we have been overtaken, we have been caught. Now this is a very natural reaction that you'd expect from a group of people, a group of slaves, that are being chased by a superpower of an army, and they're now stuck in front of the Red Sea. There's no worldly escape. And this may also be a very natural reaction that we may face in our own lives, be it in our marital life, work life, academic life, in our society, where we may come across some challenges, some difficulties, some tasks that we may also feel like inna la mudrakun, that surely we have now been done for. However, the beauty of the story is that the story continues. And what sets Prophet Musa alayhi salam apart from the Banu Israel is his reaction to this same dire situation. In the following verse, verse number 62, again Surah Shu'ara, chapter number 26. Musa says, Qala, he said, Kalla, by no means. In the Arabic language, Kalla is referred to as an emphatic no, categoric no, absolutely no way. Qala, Kalla, Musa said, by no means. Inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdeen, surely my Lord is with me and he will guide me to safety. The beauty of this is that Musa and the Banu Israel faced the same impossible situation. They both faced the same dire situation. However, what made Musa alayhi salam, apart from the Banu Israel, stand apart was his reaction to the difficulty and to the challenge that was in front of him. And many a times, what shapes us in our own lives is how we react to the challenges that may come in our own lives. Be it in our academic life, be it in our marital relationship, society, or academic or societal life. Our reaction is everything. And here, Musa alayhi salam's complete, unwavering and certain faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was apparent. Inna ma'iya rabbi sayahdeen, surely my Lord will guide me to safety and he is there with me. Now, in the following verse, what happens? We know, فَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى مُوسَى, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed upon to Musa, he inspired Musa alayhi salam, O Musa, take your staff, strike it onto the sea, and so the sea parted like two towering mountains. And we all know what happens. Musa alayhi salam and the Banu Israel were able to pass the Red Sea, and Fir'aun, when he tried to pursue with his army, he was drowned within the Red Sea and he was himself annihilated. Now this story, as beautiful as it is, isn't just a story that we read and listen to and feel good about it, but rather it has a timeless lesson that we may be able to take from the story. And this lesson is this, that Musa alayhi salam had the same dire situation of the Banu Israel. However, his complete faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his complete tawakul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifested in the words that he said, and thereafter he was saved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, furthermore, to add to this point, the beauty of this story further is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps Musa alayhi salam. Musa has complete faith. He has the tawakkul. Clearly he knows that Allah will guide him to safety. However, what is interesting is how Allah chooses to support him. Allah, if he would have wished, would have parted the sea for Musa alayhi salam. However, Allah asks Musa, فَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى Musa, he inspires Musa, Musa, before I take any action, you need to take action. Take your staff and strike it upon the sea. Now this strike, clearly it's not the striking of the Musa that parts the Red Sea, it's the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to inculcate within all of our minds that you have to have tawakkul, you have to have the faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but that tawakkul has to go hand in hand with actions. Tawakkul and actions are not two disparate, two separate, two individual things, but rather tawakkul and action are two sides of the same coin. They're two arms of the same body, they're two lanes of the same road. And tonight, being the martyrdom anniversary of the mother of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Lady Banin, salamullahi alayhi, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. The topic of discussion that I have chosen for tonight is titled Tawakal and actions go hand in hand. And inshallah, if there is any challenge that any of us are facing right at this point, I'd like you to put it at the forefront of your minds and see how this concept and this belief of tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help us, guide us through it. And the story that I've mentioned of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and the Red Sea, I'd also like you to park it within your minds, and inshallah we will refer to the same story in the middle and in the end of our discussion tonight. And so we continue and we begin our discussion. Now when we say tawakkul, what do we mean when we use the term tawakkul? Tawakkul comes from the root word wikala, which means to appoint. Wakil, for example, means to appoint. It's a heavy load. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam has been quoted to have said that once he asked the Archangel Jibra'il, and of course when he asks for us so that you and I are able to benefit from that. He asks, "Oh angel, tell me what it means to have tawakkul." And Angel Jibra'il responds in the following way. He says, tawakkul is to know that no creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can harm you, nor can they benefit you, nor can they prevent you from anything. And tawakkul means to not have your eyes in the wealth of others. And when an individual, a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has these in mind, then his belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is complete. Here, the angel Jibreel and the Holy Prophet are trying to teach us that tawakkul means to be completely trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He is the Almighty, He is the All-Powerful. No one in this world can harm us, no one can prevent us from anything, and no one can benefit us. And this means to have tawakkul, to have that hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, to take this discussion a little bit further, I'd like to give you the analogy and the following analogy and the following example. Now many of us in this room, some of us from amongst this room may be solicitors or maybe lawyers. Some of us would have even studied law, for example, at least at some point in our lives. Or for instance, some of us at least would have come across lawyers and solicitors within our society, be it for conveyancing needs, be it for a civil case, be it to transact on a property or any other matter. Now within law and within this field, there is a notion known as the power of attorney. What does the power of attorney mean? The power of attorney means that you give your power to take decisions on your behalf, whether it be on your wealth, on your health, whether it be decisions regarding your properties or any other type of decisions. You give this power of taking decisions on your behalf to someone else. Right? Simply, power of attorney means I allow you to take decisions on my behalf. Now within the power of attorney, within law, there are many different types of power of attorney, two of which are either a general power of attorney or a limited or special power of attorney. A special or a limited power of attorney has limits to it. For example, I am not feeling too well to go to this meeting that I have scheduled tomorrow. So I ask one of my managers, I ask one of my colleagues, I ask one of my friends, and I give them this power of attorney, this limited power of attorney, to go to this meeting on my behalf, be my advocate and take decisions on my behalf. So here, the power of attorney is limited to a date, to a time, and to a specific meetings on as to which decisions can be executed within that time. This is a limited or a special power of attorney. A different type of power of attorney is a general power of attorney. A general power of attorney is any piece of paper that you are able to sign on, that individual can sign on. Any properties that you can buy and sell, that individual is able to do the same on your behalf. Any meeting that you're able to attend, that individual is able to attend that meeting. Any decisions you're able to execute, any money you're able to withdraw, the other individual is able to do the same. And this also goes over to making decisions, not just about your wealth, but also about your health. This is a general power of attorney. Now, what are the two most qualities or the skills that you look for within an individual, traits that you wish to give someone a power of attorney? Be it a lawyer, be it your manager, be it a colleague or a friend. One of the first things that you look for in a person that you wish to give a power of attorney, especially a general power of attorney, is whether or not the person is trustworthy, honest, reliable. Because if the person is not trustworthy, clearly they're going to abuse the power that you give them. They're going to launder the money that they're now able to get their hands on. One of the first things you look for in an individual to give a power of attorney is trust, honesty, reliability. On the second level, what if the person is trustworthy, he's honest, he's reliable, but he lacks competency? He lacks the skill set to be able to execute decisions in the most effective of manner. Would you still give him a power of attorney? No, of course not. So you look for trust and you look for competency. Now, whether or not in our minds we believe that we've given Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a general power of attorney or a limited power of attorney, of course Allah has power over all things. Trust and competency is there in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just in the same manner that we have as individuals, but in manifold. You see, an individual who is in need of giving a general power of attorney to a solicitor, a lawyer, or to another individual, generally those types of people are those people that are incapacitated. They're unable to take decisions because of their physical capabilities, mental capabilities, or those individuals that are bedridden. We need to understand that your and my need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the same, not less, if not more, than that individual who's unable to take any decisions for himself because he's lying on the bed. Right? This is what it means to have a general power of attorney. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, has power over all things. However, the question that we ask ourselves right now is, have I given Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a general power of attorney or a limited power of attorney over my life? Of course, Allah has power over all things, but in our minds, have we given Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a limited power of attorney or a general power of attorney? You see, yes, I believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can help me in such circumstances, but I don't trust Him to take decisions on the other aspects of my life. Yes, I believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the raziq, is the sustainer, but I have doubts over my sustenance. Yes, I believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafurur Rahim, He's merciful, He's forgiving, but I still have doubts over the mercy that He has and over my sins that will be forgiven. It's a question that we may need to ask ourselves. In my mind, have I given Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a general power of attorney or a limited power of attorney? And we take this discussion slightly forward. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so we briefly discussed as to what this power of attorney is. And to take this a little bit further, what we mean by tawakkul, the beauty of tawakkul is that it allows us to include Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every aspect of our lives. You see, in our lives we may face some difficulties, we may face some deaths, we may face some challenges, some stresses in life, we may face redundancies and other aspects of our life which will be challenging. However, the beauty of tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Wakil, the advocate, the dependable. And when we include Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every aspect of our life, it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is part and parcel of our life. Of course, as we will come to later, action and faith, action and tawakkul go hand in hand. So far we've discussed what tawakkul is. We take our discussion slightly forward. But before that, with the loudest of your voices, salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, we move forward and understand what we mean when we say tawakkul and action go hand in hand. First, we need to understand that not all forms of tawakkul are valid forms of tawakkul. Not all forms of tawakkul are the correct forms of tawakkul. For example, What if I say that I'm a student and I'm going to have complete trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm not going to revise for my tests, and I'm going to trust Him to take care of my results? What if I want an ideal body, I want to live a healthy life, but you know what, I'm going to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, eat whatever junk food that I need, not do any exercises, and He's going to take care of my ideal body? What if rather than investing in my relationships, I'm going to trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He'll sort it all out for me? What if I'm not going to go out, earn a halal livelihood, but rather Allah will sustain me? Rather than going to the doctors and taking medicines, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will cure me. All of these types of tawakkul are invalid forms of tawakkul. These are nothing more than laziness, complacency, and inaction. Let me give you a couple of more examples and a couple of more stories. Once, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi walks into the mosque of Kufa. And as you do when you walk into a mosque, he sees a group of people that are busying themselves in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through salat. Another group of people reciting Quran. Another group of people supplicating, reciting du'as and munajat. Another group of people engrossing themselves in discussions and dialogues. And then he comes across another group of people that are doing nothing, just sitting there, staring at one another, staring at the wall. So Amir al-Mu'mineen asks the people around him, who are these people that are doing nothing at all? So the people around him say that these are those individuals that call themselves Rijalul Haq, Mutawakkilun. So Amir al-Mu'mineen says, what do you mean? They come across and they say that we are those that are Mutawakkilun. We trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we are to be given food, we are thankful to Him, we eat it. And if we don't get given food, then we bear patience and retain our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amir al-Mu'mineen looks at them. He says, Bal antum muta'akkib. You are not those that have trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, you are the same as the dogs in the streets of Kufa, that if you are able to give them a bowl of food, they'll jump at it. And if you don't give them anything to eat, they will sit there waiting patiently. And Amir al-Mu'mineen orders that this group of people who call themselves Mutawakkilun, Rijalul Haq, to be dispersed, and that every individual needs to go out and earn their own halal livelihood. You see, many brilliant students of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq would never shy away from doing odd jobs to make both ends meet. Many of them were oil vendors. Some of them were cobblers. Some of them were camel hirers. Some of them were butter sellers. Even if we look at the lives of our beloved prophets, some of them were blacksmiths, some of them were tradesmen, some of them carpenters, some of them farmers, and those that busy themselves in cultivation. Once the Holy Prophet comes across a group of people that weren't really busying themselves in any halal income, they weren't busying themselves in farming or cultivation. So he asked them, what do you do? And again the same response. They said that we wait. If we receive food, we eat. Otherwise we have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, the Holy Prophet said, this is not what it means to have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, you are like parasites on human beings. You are burdens on other human beings. And again, he orders them to go out and earn your own halal livelihood. So this is what it means when it says tawakkul and action go hand in hand. This is an invalid form of tawakkul. You can't just say, I'm going to sit back and wait for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide me. Action has to be there. In another story, we come across Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Once Prophet Musa alayhi salam was quite ill. And so the doctors of Banu Israel came, they diagnosed him, they were able to understand what his illness was, and they prescribed him some herbs and some medicines. However, at that point, Prophet Musa alayhi salam says, no, I'm not going to take your medicine. Rather, I'm going to have tawakkul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to cure me. So Prophet Musa alayhi salam's illness, his health deteriorated further after it got to a point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Prophet Musa, O Musa, I am not going to cure you unless you take the medicine that has been prescribed to you by the doctors of the Banu Israel. So the Holy Prophet Musa alayhi salam took this medicine and his health bettered. However, he couldn't help but feel dejected. He felt a little bit sad. He felt feelings of despair. So he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Allah, why did you not cure me yourself? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded, and look at his response. He said, Musa, you try to invalidate my wisdom by not taking the herbs and the medicines that was prescribed to you by the doctors. Who do you think has provided medicinal benefits in the plants and herbs? I am the originator of everything. But Musa, you have to go through my systems. Musa, you have to go through the herbs and the medicines that have been prescribed to you. Similarly, we live in a society. Yes, we need to have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we live in a society where we need to make use of the skill sets and the resources that we have within the society. We have doctors in the society that can help cure illnesses. We have lawyers in the society that can help with other services. We have shopkeepers that can provide us with groceries. We have accountants that can provide us with sound financial advice, and so on and so forth. And so within our lives, we need to make use of the different resources that we have at our disposal. And so these are types of tawakkul that can be known as invalid forms of tawakkul. However, what is the right form of tawakkul? We take this discussion slightly forward. Then let me give you the following example. You see, tawakkul and action go hand in hand. It reminds us of the story of the Bedouin Arab that many of us may have already heard of. Once the Bedouin Arab comes at the service of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, should I tie my camel and then have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or should I not tie my camel and have tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Look at the words of the Holy Prophet. He says, Iqilha wa tawakkul. Tie your camel and at the same time have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't say, no, first tie your camel and then have tawakkul in Allah. No. Iqilha wa tawakkal. These two are simultaneously. You tie your camel and at the same time you have faith and tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You don't have faith in the rope that you tie. Why? Because the camel is still stolen by many ropes. No, you don't have the faith in the rope. However, you have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whilst you tie the camel. And we go back to the story that we started from. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he wanted, he could have split the Red Sea for Musa alayhi salam, because Musa demonstrated the exemplary, unwavering tawakkul that he had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But yet, Musa is asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Musa, fa'awhayna ila Musa, Musa, first strike your staff onto the Red Sea. Musa is ordered to take the action first, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes action. Was it the striking of the staff that split the Red Sea? No, of course not. It was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Does that mean that if I was to take a staff and strike it in this land of Leicester in the United Kingdom, would the land suddenly split? No, of course not. It's not the staff or it's not my action that splits the land. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I am responsible for is I do the action and I leave the results onto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what it means when you say striking of the sea. The metaphorical striking of the sea needs to happen in every aspect of our own lives. We all know of the lady that was in an impossible situation. She was stranded with an infant in the Arabian Peninsula in the middle of a desert with no vegetation, no water. What does she do? She runs to a mountain. Does she find water? No, she doesn't. She runs back to Safa. Does she find water there? No, she doesn't. If we were in her place, what would we do? If we've gone to Marwa and we haven't found water, we've run to Safa, we haven't found water, we've tried once, we haven't found water, we'd give up. Not Lady Hajara. She goes back to Marwa, she runs back to Safa. 7 times she repeats this action. 7 times she demonstrates her willingness and action, but at the same time has tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, this is a beautiful lesson for us that we can't be a people of those people that just try once. If I want to ace my exams, then clearly I can't just revise for one night and that's it, hope for the best. If I want the ideal body, then clearly one sit-up or one single push-up isn't going to cut it. If I want to improve the family life that I have, the interaction that I have with people, then clearly one phone call isn't going to quite fix things for me. Which is why even in the religion of Islam, repetition is prescribed. Pray multiple times a day, fast multiple times a year. If you want to increase your spirituality, for example, there are some adhkar that you need to do to repeat. Repetition is key. Perseverance is key. We can't be a people of laziness, but we rather be a people of endurance, a people of persistency, a people of perseverance. And this goes to show how important it is to have this action and tawakkul hand in hand, right at the same time. If I take your minds at the mother of Prophet Isa alayhi salam, Lady Maryam, just imagine that time when Lady Maryam has just delivered a baby. How much energy, how much health do you think Lady Maryam would have to do anything at that time? But no, she has complete faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, agreed. But yet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspires Lady Maryam to shake the palm tree behind her, a dry palm tree, shake it, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was then able to give her dates from that. Now, was it the shaking of the tree that made Lady Maryam receive the dates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Lady Maryam was responsible for her own actions. And similarly, time and time again, we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encouraging us, look, you take action, leave the rest to me. And whether or not it's good for you or not good for you, you leave the best of the results for me in this world and in the hereafter. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And so far, in the discussion titled Tawakkul and Action Go Hand in Hand, as part of a summary, what have we discussed today? We started off with the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam and Banu Israel, who were in an impossible situation in front of the Red Sea, and behind them was a superpower of an army that was wanting to annihilate them. We then briefly touched upon the notion of tawakkul and what we mean when we say tawakkul, and we use the analogy and the example of the power of attorney. Then we tried and understand that invalid forms of tawakkul of the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, for example, or the Rijalul Haq and Amirul Mu'mineen. And then briefly, again, we touched upon how it is that we need to have faith and tawakkul and action at the same time, through the examples of Musa, Lady Hajra, Lady Maryam, and any other example that we gave. Now that we've come to this point, as part of a conclusion, allow me to present you the following, which will help us to tie up the loose strings that we have left open at this time. You see, faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amirul Mu'mineen, for example, has stated. But before that, allow me to recite the verse of the Holy Quran that I had the honor and privilege to recite before you. Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter number 5, verse number 21, I believe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَلَى اللَّهِ فَتَوَكَّلُوا. And so put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In kuntum mu'mineen. If you are believers. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you are believers, put your faith in me. And Amirul Mu'mineen has provided a very similar tradition that says that the strength of tawakkul that you have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes from the strength of the certainty that you have in Him. So at any point that we feel that, you know what, my faith in Allah, my tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't as strong as I'd like to be, then this potentially a good point for us to introspect within ourselves and to analyze the faith that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regardless, this is something that will require practice. We may be at a specific level of tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but no doubt we can always improve the level of tawakkul that we get to. For example, like any other muscle in our body, we need to start with the small things, with the lightweight. So for example, if we don't have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the small things, then we'll find it difficult to have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the bigger things. If we don't have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in things that we think we have in control, Of course, Allah is in control of everything, but if we think we have control, then clearly we're not going to have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those things that we know we don't have any control. If we're not going to have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where I actually have a plan or a strategy, then clearly I'm not going to have tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where I don't have any plans, I don't have any strategy. And so even if we look at Prophet Musa alayhi salam in his life, for example, his journey in Surah Al-Qasas chapter number 28, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what to Prophet Musa alayhi salam? Oh Musa, throw your staff. First time. And when the staff was thrown, the miracle happened and the staff turned into a serpent. In Surah Al-Qasas it says that Musa alayhi salam had a little bit of fear. I'm not saying Prophet Musa didn't have any tawakkul on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course he had tawakkul. He was a prophet. But the Quran describes that this was the level of tawakkul, for example, he had. That when Musa alayhi salam threw his staff onto the floor, when he became a serpent, the Quran says Musa turned around and started running the opposite way. Musa had fear in his heart and it manifested in him turning around and running the opposite way. Now, what happens? Allah says, Musa, don't worry about it, come. And he trains Musa alayhi salam. Then in the other aspect of his life, for example, Surah Taha or Surah Shu'ara, chapter number 26, for example. What happens is Musa is now in front of an audience. He's in front of Pharaoh. He's in front of the magicians. There are hundreds of people. Now, is this not a more challenging scenario to be in the first one? Of course, it's a more difficult one. However, at this point, when Musa threw his staff and that staff turned into a serpent, did Musa alayhi salam turn around and run the opposite way? No, he didn't. The Quran says, yes, maybe he was a little bit apprehensive, maybe he had a little bit of fear, but he didn't turn around and ran the opposite way. And then later in his life, and the story that we started off with, Surah Shu'ara chapter number 26, from verses 61 onwards, at the zenith of his tawakkul, at the peak of his tawakkul, in front of him is the Red Sea, behind him is the army, armed to the teeth. There is no worldly escape from Musa alayhi salam, but yet he says, Kalla, by no means, Inni ma'ya rabbi sayahdin. Verily, my Lord is with me and He will guide me to safety. This is the tawakkul of Prophet Musa alayhi salam that was also developing. And the more that we practice on our own faith, the more that we practice on our own tawakkul, the more stronger, the more certain, the more unwavering it will be. As the famous saying goes, whatever you focus on grows. And if you focus on problems, then your problems will grow. And if we focus on solutions, our solutions will grow. If we have any problems, then clearly that's huge. But the question is my problem big or is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bigger? And when we look at this tawakkul, we see that it was a central point within the entire journey of Aba Abdullah Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Imam Husayn alayhi salam says what when he leaves Medina? He says, oh Allah, I have my tawakkul in you. I put my faith in you, my belief in you, but yet I go out to the battlefield with my children and with my family members. Action and tawakkul go hand in hand. They're not two disparate, two separate things, two individual things. They have to go hand in hand. And tonight, we have gathered here to commemorate the martyrdom of that lady that was the mother of Abul Fadl al-Abbas. And look at her tawakkul. Look at her faith and the belief. But yet, regardless of the level of belief that she had, yet she would nurture Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. If we think Hazrat Abbas is the epitome of loyalty, if we think Hazrat Abbas is the epitome of bravery, of servitude, then it is this lady Banin, that nurtured Hazrat Abul Fadl al-Abbas from a very young age to teach her what it means to be a loyal companion, what it means to be a loyal servant of Aba Abdullah. As the Urdu poet says, उम्मुल बनीन ने बेटे को बेदार कर दिया, उम्मुल बनीन ने बेटे को बेदार कर दिया, हर जंग फतह करने को तैयार कर दिया. माँ ने बेटे को इतनी दुआएं दी कि अब्बास को अलमदार बना दिया. So brothers and sisters, this is the lady Ummul Banin. Herself, she would come into the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, not as a wife, but as the servant of Hasanain, as the servant of Zainab and Kulthum. And while seeing their own mothers, this is what happens to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Brothers and sisters, tonight we have come here to commemorate the lady Banin. Many du'as are accepted in the wasila of Lady Banin. There are many a'mals that have been suggested by scholars. Even if we go to Karbala in Bain al-Haramain, in the Haram of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, there is a door by the name of the Bab of Banin. Many local Arabs would go to that door and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the wasila of this pious lady, of Lady Banin. And brothers and sisters, tonight, if there is any challenge, any difficulty that you or I are facing, then let us use this door of Lady Banin, and inshallah our hajats will no doubt be accepted in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, tonight we come here to commemorate the martyrdom of Lady Banin. That lady who is known as the mother of her sons, but the same lady who lost all her sons in the battle of Karbala. Lady Banin has written a marthiyah that has been narrated by Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi, which we will come to a little bit later. However, in this marthiyah, Lady Banin says, I am known as the mother of her sons, but how can one call me the mother of her sons when my sons are no longer there with me? For this title no longer befits me. Brothers and sisters, when the event of Karbala, Sham and Kufa transpired, Imam as-Sajjad, he returns back to Medina. In the outskirts of Medina, he sits down the womenfolk. He pitches up a tent. He calls an individual, a poet by the name of Bishr bin Hadlam. Oh Bishr, your father was a great poet. Do you also recite poetry? Bishr says, yes, my Mawla, I also recite some poetry. He says, oh Bishr, then go into the city of my grandfather, go into the city of Medina and tell people that we have arrived. Bishr, he goes inside the city of Medina. No, he goes next to the grave of Rasulullah. He calls out, oh people of Yathrib, oh people of Medina, this city is no longer worth living in, for Husayn has been slain in the plains of Karbala, and his head has been paraded city to city to city. At this point, an old lady comes forward. In her arms is this young boy. This lady comes forward. She calls out, Ya Na'i, or the one that is calling out, Akhbirni an waladi al-Husayn. Tell me about my son Husayn. Bishr, confused, he asks around, who is this lady that calls her Husayn as her son? He is informed that this lady is none other than Banin. The child in her arms is that of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Lady Banin comes forward. Bishr looks at the face of Banin. He says, Ya Banin, أعظم الله لك العاجر بولدك الجعفر. Oh Banin, accept my condolences for the death of your son Ja'far. Banin says, Ya Na'i, أخبرني عن ولدي الحسين. I did not ask you about Ja'far. Tell me about my son Husayn. He says, Ya Banin, أعظم الله لك العاجر عن ولدك العثمان. Oh Banin, accept my condolences for the death of your son Uthman. She says, no, I've not asked you about Uthman. أخبرني عن ولدي الحسين. Tell me about my son Husayn. He says, يا Banin, أعظم الله لك العاجر بولدك العبد الله. Oh Banin, accept my condolences for the death of your son Abdullah. She says, Ya Na'i, have I not asked you? I've not asked you about Abdullah, Uthman or Ja'far. Tell me about my son Husayn. You all know where I am headed towards. At this point, Bishr looks at Banin. He says, Ya Banin, أعظم الله لك العاجر بقمر العشيرة بأبي الفضل العباس. The narration states the child that al-Banin had in her arms drops to the floor. al-Banin holds on to her chest. She says, Ya Bishr, you have torn my heart into pieces, but I did not ask you about Abbas. أخبرني عن ولدي الحسين. Tell me about my son Husayn. ازاداران امام مظلوم کربلا، پساداران سیدہ فاطمہ، آج ہم یہاں جمع ہوئے ہیں جناب ام البنین کے مصائب پڑھنے کے لیے، ان کی وفات منانے کے لیے۔ ازاداروں، تاریخ میں ملتا ہے کہ جناب ام البنین کا کربلا کے بعد، واقع کربلا کے بعد معمول تھا، دستور تھا کہ روزانہ ہر دن جناب ام البنین جب اٹھتی تھی تو جنت البقیع کے قبرستان میں جاتی تھی، وہاں بیٹھتی تھی، چال قبریں بناتی۔ اے جعفر یہ تیری قبر، عبداللہ یہ تیری قبر، عثمان یہ تیری قبر، عباس یہ تیری قبر، لیکن اے میرے شیرو میں تم پر نہیں رہوں گی، میں حسین پر رہوں گی۔ امام جعفر صادق کی روایت ہے، شیخ عباس القمی نقل کرتے ہیں، لکھتے ہیں کہ جناب ام البنین مدینے میں جنت البقیع میں مرثیہ پڑھتی تھی، اتنی آواز سے، بلند آواز سے گریا کرتی تھی، بلند آواز سے رویا کرتی تھی، مدینے والے سارے آ کر روتے تھے۔ ایک دن مروان کہتا ہے کہ ذرا میں بھی دیکھوں کہ یہ مرثیے کیسے پڑھتے ہیں۔ ایک مرتبہ جناب ام البنین نے مرثیہ پڑھنا شروع کیا، انہوں نے فرمایا کہ لوگ کہتے ہیں کہ مجھے کہتے ہیں، میں نے سنا ہے کہ میرا شیر دل عباس، میرا شیر دل بیٹا جب گھوڑے کی زین سے زمین پر گرا تھا تو اس کے ہاتھ سلامت نہیں تھے، میں نے سنا ہے کہ اس کے سر پر وار ہوا تھا۔ مرثیے میں کہتی ہے، اے پالنے والے مجھے اتنا تو بتا دے کہ جب میرا بیٹا گھوڑے کی زین سے جب زمین پر گھرا تھا تو بے ہاتھ کیسا گھرا تھا۔ علی لعنت اللہ علی القوم الظالمین، انا للہ و انا الیہ راجعون، وسیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون۔ We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept whatever little that we had to offer. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us the opportunity to bring to practice whatever we may have learnt tonight and discussed tonight, and have the opportunity to have tawakal and action at the same time. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of the 12th Hujjah, and when he does come, so that we are also part of his ashab and his ansar. Matam Husayn, Ya Husayn.
تیرا غم منائیں گے، زندہ رہے حسین، تیرا غم منائیں گے۔ فاطمہ کے لال یہ وعدہ نبھائیں گے، زندہ رہے حسین، تیرا غم من گھر میں ہمارے آئیں گی مجلس میں فاطمہ، گھر میں ہمارے آئیں گی مجلس میں فاطمہ، گھر میں ہمارے آئیں گے مجلس میں فاطمہ، برش عزا کے ساتھ یہ دل جھولے ہمارے یہاں یہ شبی ہے یہ تازیے جھولے ہمارے یہاں یہ شبی ہے یہ تازیے جھولے ہمارے یہاں یہ شبی ہے یہ تازیے تہذیب غم سے درد کے منظر ہم منظر سجائیں گے رہے حسین تیرا منائے ان کا ہے جلوس جو پیاسے ہوئے شہید یہ ان کا ہے جلوس پیاسے ہوئے شہید ہم اس کے راستے میں سبیلے لگائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین تیرا غم کہتے ہیں چھوٹے چھوٹے سے بچے یہ باپ سے کہتے ہیں چھوٹے چھوٹے سے یہ باپ سے ایک روز بابا جائے علم ہم اٹھائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین تیرا غم گے کچھ دیر ذوالجناح میرے گھر پہ روک دو دیر ذوالجناح میرے گھر پہ پیاسے کی اس سواری کو پانی پلائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین تیرا غم گے کس شان کے ملے ہیں نمازی حسین کو کس شان کے نمازی حسین کو تیروں کے سامنے یہ مسلح بچھائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین بچوں کو اپنے سجدہ شبیر کی قسم بچوں کو اپنے سجدہ شبیر کی قسم ماتم کے ساتھ ساتھ نمازیں سکھائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین تیرا غم راہ حسینیت کے شہیدو سلام لو راہ حسینیت کے شہید سلام لو تم کو نہ اپنے دل سے کبھی ہم بھلائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین تیرا غم بعد ظہور ہوگا محرم کا یہ حشم بعد ظہور ہوگا محرم کا یہ حشم ہم کربلا امام کے ہمراہ جائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین اے فاطمہ کے لال یہ وعدہ نبھائیں گے زندہ رہے حسین تیرا غم منائیں گے یا حسین یا حسین
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوسين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا شهداء كربلاء جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك مولى وابن مولى. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا سلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا. كن شفينا وشفي والدينا في يوم الجزاء. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان. الأمان 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 من